Yo, yo, yo. I can't walk. For those of you who may not know her, Candace Owens is a conservative political commentator, author, activist, and television presenter. I don't always agree with her, but I respect Candace for showing no fear in sharing her conservative views as a black woman in a country that's brainwashed by liberal propaganda.
Yeah.
She made an appearance on the Whatever podcast recently so she could listen to prostitutes attempt to justify their way of life, as well as gain OnlyFans subscriptions from the very same simps who send donations and mean text messages about them in the super chats.
How the fuck does that work?
Candace is on the show for the first hour and 45 minutes of the podcast. I left a link in the description below because I found it quite entertaining to watch Candace react to these 304's with a look on her face the entire time that told me she was thinking,
oh my god, I've seen it on TV, but I never thought I'd sit this close.
I like how Brian surrounded Candace with a variety of young white women to talk to.
My name's Azalea, I'm 31, and I'm a flight attendant and content creator.
What kind of content do you?
Twitch streaming, OnlyFans, and yeah.
Sorry, I was asking a question. What kind of content do you do on OnlyFans?
Mainly topless content.
Okay,
So-
and you currently have a boyfriend?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
My name is Lexi. I am 22 years old and I'm a full-time sex worker. I do content creating like on OnlyFans as well as stripping at strip clubs, and I work as a legal prostitute.
Hi, my name's Pixie. I'm 24 years old and I stream politics on Twitch.
I'm Essie. I'm 24. I have two jobs. My passion is social media management, and then I do OnlyFans as well. I also don't do nudes on OnlyFans, so it's just like lingerie content.
Hey there, I'm Olivia Bentley, and I am an intimacy coach. I am a legal sex worker, and I am an OnlyFans content creator.
Did you say age?
46.
Old as fuck.
Hi, I'm Tara. I'm 22 years old, and I'm an EEG technician and research assistant in the field of clinical neuroscience.
I'm Lily. I'm 23 years old. I'm a student at Belmont. I'm graduating soon, and I'm a personal trainer, and my goal is to be a worship artist.
After playing a viral video for the panel to react to and a couple of warm-up questions, Brian asked the hookers about their dating prospects outside of work.
For you two, has being involved in prostitution, has it had any impact when it comes to your romantic prospects?
I've got to be able to be myself and fully disclose, and I need that person to accept me for who I am, bottom line.
I've had no issues being a legal prostitute just because I haven't been dating anybody within this time for that year. As for everything else, it's hard dating. I've ran into a lot of insecure men. Typically, those are the ones that can't handle me doing what I do for work. I've never dated a guy while I was working at the brothels, at the Bunny Ranch or the Mustang Ranch, but I've been dating guys like between me doing camming and dancing, so that's what I'm talking about.
But you mentioned insecure men. What specifically are they doing that makes them insecure? Is it because they're insecure about your work?
Yes, like I've had exes in the past that would cry about me going to work to dance at the strip club. I've had guys try to control like what I wear and say that I can't work at strip clubs or do OnlyFans or whatever.
Okay. Is it because they're insecure, or is that just them having boundaries and standards?
I feel like you knew what I was doing before you met me. Which brings it to, if you have a problem with what I do before you meet me, maybe don't get involved with me.
Sure.
If you don't like it, there's the door. Nobody's making you stay.
I think too, gentlemen love the idea of dating us, and then once we go to do it, then it's not really realistic.
Right. It's almost like
A fetish.
Like, you're right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's so hot. I have a girlfriend that does this, that, and the other. And then when they're really at home and I'm like on OnlyFans or on a call with a client or whatever, they're like, no, this is weird. This is weird. You know what I mean? And that, I think it's an insecurity, yes. I have a question. If you ever fell in love with somebody, would you be willing to delete all of your stuff if they asked you? I am currently single because of what I do for work. I am very much so busy doing my work, and I'm full throttle, like wanting to make money and capitalize off of this industry to the best of my ability and make it to the point where I can retire. Also, making this much money and doing what I do for work, it puts me in a position to be able to meet the type of guys that I want to meet, the higher end type of guys. Maybe later on down the line, not anytime yet, I would be open to it.
And when you say high-end men, what do you mean by that? Like high-value men?
Yes, high value.
Or men with a lot of money?
High value.
Throughout the show, I could tell Candace respected Pixie the most because Pixie came prepared with questions and took notes like she always does. Candace left this girl alone because she only models lingerie on her OnlyFans with no nude content at all. But when it came to the two hookers and this chick who posts pictures of her titties online for profit, Candace had no problems letting them know what she really thought of them every chance she got.
Question here for Candace. So what are your thoughts on OnlyFans, sex work, and do you believe that a woman doing OnlyFans or porn might have an impact on her future romantic prospects? And if so, how and why?
The truth is that if you are going to engage in sex work, you are going to probably make a lot of money, especially if you're young. You're on a very tight rope. As you get older, your value goes down, and men are going to want women that are younger and available to them. I'm talking about in terms of just making the person who will subscribe to your OnlyFans page. You know, obviously, women, you're declining as you age. As the truth is that high value men don't want to date women that are sex workers or even women that aren't sex workers and lean into the whole talking about how sexy and are freely available on the internet for other men to see. What we're talking about is biological proclivity. What men are doing when they first say, this sounds amazing, to date a stripper or to date a prostitute or to date a sex worker, is there's this instinct to have sex. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to have sex all the time. But then when they realize that actually a form of wanting to be in a relationship is feeling that there's a mystery to a woman, that there's something that's yours, there's something that's sacred, there's something that's powerful and beautiful that just you share. And when they realize that they have to share that with other men, it completely diminishes the man. So with women, it's a trade-off. First thing you said was, I make money, this is about money. It's about money, but when it comes down to marrying these women, men just don't want it.
And that's exactly why I said that in this industry, I'm single until I retire.
But it will still matter.
I don't plan on doing this or getting married or finding the love of my life until I retire, like truthfully. And then after that, I will be honest and truthful with the person that I will be getting married to or whatever, and it'll be up to him to accept that, right? So,
I'm just saying that men's
decision.
natural proclivity is to not accept that because it brings them shame. This is why women struggle to get married when they've made themselves available on OnlyFans, because other men don't want to share. They don't want to share their wife. They maybe will share their girlfriend. They might think it's fun to date a stripper for a little bit. They might think, oh, this means I'm going to have sex 12 times a day. But then when it gets down to just their biological instinct, it's actually quite embarrassing for them as a man, because they can look up your girl and here she is, you know? So that's what I think is happening.
I'm not a smart man.
But I know what a whore is. I believe once a woman performs sexual acts in exchange for monetary compensation, that she officially sold her soul and she no longer deserves any more respect from me. I went to school for 14 years and accomplished
absolutely nothing
at all in my life professionally, so if people feel the need to exercise their First Amendment right to call me dusty, broke, or any other adjective pertaining to how much of a fucking loser I am, then I have no choice but to accept it. So with that being said, if this chick went to school for 13 years with access to an education that could allow her to become anything that she wanted to be in life, and she chose to surround herself with a bunch of
pimps, hoes, players, johns, tricks, marks, mark-ass tricks, trick-ass marks, skeezers, skanks, skig-skags, and scallywops,
to convince her dumbass that selling her body for cash is somehow a liberating career move that she should be proud of, then I believe I must exercise my First Amendment right to tell that prostitute,
"You are such a whore."
When women have a lot of partners, it is different. It is worse in a way, and people don't want to admit that. But because we are more emotional, there is an attachment. It isn't just sex for women. You know, I think women are damaged by those relationships. Women like to think, because of the social simulation, that it can just be sex, it's whatever. Non-committal, the only people that benefit from that lie are men. It is not great to have sex and have a man not call you back. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't matter if a BuzzFeed article says it does. I had a wonderful weekend and this is why I had sex and didn't worry about it. You feel used, and especially, I would say, if you're not a sex worker and a man does that and never calls you back, you don't even have money to show for it. I think it diminishes your self-worth even more than your worth to a man.
Can we get a motherfucking moment of silence for this small chronic break?
I've never smoked crack. I never met a crackhead that didn't have no skills. I mean,
thank you.
I'm not saying that they're bad people.
Okay, that's all I'm saying.
I don't say that.
That's all I'm saying. Everyone deserves something they enjoy, but if you're licensed from, but if somebody smoked crack, you wouldn't date them.
Midnight Podcast. Midnight Podcast.
Now, back to our regular scheduled program.
It was Granny's turn to get dunked on next, so Brian brought up a viral news story about her brand of therapy for married couples.
New York Post, I'm a sex therapist.
Yes.
I sleep with clients to save marriages.
Oh my God.
Sex therapist Olivia Bentley, takes a hands-on approach with her clients by sleeping with them. I've saved marriages, the Boise, Idaho native told Kennedy News, calling her work life-changing. I get physically involved with the majority of the people I see. I think that's part of the appeal. The veteran sex worker who spent 15 years in the industry claims that women have asked her to demonstrate sex acts on their husbands, while some wives grant their eager hubbies a hall pass to pay Bentley a visit. Good times.
You already know Granny tried to sell Candace a couple of goofy stories of how her sex therapy is saving marriages, but Candace wasn't buying any of that shit.
So you're not saving marriages, you're helping people to keep up a farce that they are in a marriage. Because at the very moment that you let someone else into your marriage, it's no longer a marriage.
No.
I didn't like Granny at all because her face looks like what I imagine Joan Rivers looks like in her casket right now. I think she sounds like Caitlyn Jenner when she talks, and I also think she's way too old to still be selling pussy out here in these streets. Another thing I didn't like about her was she mentioned more than once that
I have a master's degree in education.
Like that's supposed to somehow help me accept the fact that she's a prostitute that turns tricks to save marriages. I'm just saying this old ass chick could cure leukemia, and I would still feel the need to mention that she's a sex worker when I tell people the story of how some hooker found the cure to cancer.
Know what I'm saying?
Speaking of leukemia, this hooker, in a very weak and desperate attempt to gain validation from Candace for her quadruple digit body count, told Candace about a trick whose wife gave him a hall pass to bang prostitutes because she was dying of cancer.
I just would like to make the point that at the very moment that you loan your spouse out, especially if you're dying of cancer so that they can get off, you're no longer in a marriage. So it's just a farce. It's like it's a comical, you're pretending for people that you're in a marriage, that you're in a loving relationship. That's not what a marriage is. So to say that I help marriages, no, you help destroy marriages, and they can go out and say that we're still married because what we've done is we've essentially said, you take care of this aspect of the marriage. It's like saying, you raise the kids, you have sex with him. This isn't a marriage. The whole thing is fake, right?
What do you think that they should do? What do you think that
the union between a husband and a wife should work on their marriage together to fix it? You don't bring out an outside person to sleep with your husband or your wife.
If she's saying, I'm not down for sex,
then she might be down for a divorce.
I want to outsource the sex.
What if she's going to die from cancer and she wanted him and she allowed him to do that because he needed to get off?
And is that what he told you?
So
that his wife that's dying of cancer wanted him to come have sex with you?
Not with me. This is from what I've heard. Yes,
somebody told you that there's that as a dying wish. My dying
so
wife
how would
said,
you want
go
that?
have sex with a prostitute?
I saw it on TikTok.
I'm just going to call bullshit on that altogether.
No,
I just don't
because
think
it does
when you're
happen.
dying of cancer,
It happens.
Going through leukemia.
People will literally bring their guys here.
I could tell this chick thought Candace respected her because she only posts pictures of her titties online for profit.
Wrong.
It was
a long time ago
since the last time this chick contributed anything to the conversation, so she took this opportunity to join the discussion by pointing out that
the cancer thing is crazy.
It's just the most absurd.
The cancer thing is crazy. But outside of that, I don't think that it's up to any of us what constitutes a marriage because every relationship is different.
Well, the Bible.
If a husband, okay, but
his words have meaning.
Not everyone is religious.
I thought it was funny that she would say that because Brian then used that information to throw her under the very same bus Candace was driving over these two hookers with for over a half hour.
Okay, you have a cross necklace, but then your shirt says "Made in Hell."
Yes, it does.
I'm a little confused.
The stone is red, so it matched, you know.
Why are you wearing a cross on your neck?
Because I don't see a cross as religious, so...
Okay. Just like you don't see a marriage as religious. So
I don't think that a marriage...
have meaning. This is why it's like we're at a stage where people are like, what is a woman? Because they just go, well, we're going to call it a marriage, but we're going to sleep with other people. We're going to bring in prostitutes. We're going to outsource raising the kids, or we're never going to have kids. You're calling it a family. It's not a family, and this is what it is. The words have no meaning, right? I'm wearing the cross. Why? I don't know. I don't think of it as religious. Okay, well, Jesus Christ died on the cross.
You think that.
That's what you think.
Wait,
That's what
proven.
you think.
So why are you wearing the cross?
Because I think it's cute.
You just think that the design is cute.
Yeah.
Wait, real quick.
I grew up Catholic. I was religious, and I'm not anymore. I don't have to believe in what you believe, and I can say that if
I didn't say you had to believe. I asked you a question.
But you're
I said, why are
telling
you
me,
wearing the cross?
Okay, and you're saying that the religious aspect of marriage is the only thing that matters. It's not, because people don't follow what you believe.
Yeah. Okay, I asked you why you're wearing the cross, and you said because you thought it was cute.
Yeah,
I'm
and I
glad
do.
we got an answer. She's wearing the cross around her neck because she thinks it's cute.
I do.
Would
I'm
you
not religious.
also wear like a Star of David?
It's cute.
As well, like having
would you wear like a
respect and
yarmulke?
tolerance.
It's like cute. Would you wear a yarmulke?
I think those are very different
are you talking
things.
like
Why is the
blasphemy?
cross different from the yarmulke?
I'm just.
I mean, I was raised Catholic, and that's just
Would
not
you
something
wear
that
a
I believe
yarmulke
anymore.
if you thought it was cute?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, a yarmulke is completely different than a cross that's been adapted into different.
My mother was a very religious person when she was alive, so I can empathize with Candace for taking offense to this chick mocking what?
Millions
of Christians around the world acknowledge as the definitive symbol of their faith by reducing it to merely just a fashion accessory. If this chick was as progressive as she claims she is, she would have apologized for the disrespect and even offered to take it off for the remainder of the podcast. But she didn't, because it didn't take long for her to figure out that Candace thinks she's just as evil as these two hookers are for posting pictures of her titties online for profit. Pixie tried her best to save this chick from Candace by asking her this question in a very weak attempt to distract her.
Earlier it was like talked about like how, you know, sleeping or letting your husband or wife sleep with someone else is like irresponsible, or it's not a marriage anymore. Like, I'd be kind of curious of what you believe a responsible marriage is like. I understand that you have a religious view on marriage, but when I think about a marriage, I think like I could see somebody saying they're married if it's like completely romantic, like you're not allowed to do romance with anyone else. Like, basically, what does a responsible marriage mean to you?
Marriage is not just a contract. Like, it wasn't just like the government came up with a contract for people to get married. You know, the history of marriage, you can't separate that from the church. The problem is people are trying to make things cool and trying to update and make them modern, and now people are saying you can have a polygamous marriage and you can bring in other people on the outside of a marriage. What's the point of getting married? Literally, I'd like to ask the question, if you think that you can, if you want to marry somebody and then outsource the sex, you know, outsource the responsibility, outsource what the labor of love is actually supposed to be about, why not just stay single?
So you wouldn't do a threesome with your husband?
Absolutely not, because he's my husband.
Yeah. I could tell Candace was still feeling some type of way about the cross from earlier, so she used the topic of marriage to get back at this chick.
You're at the stage, you said, I don't know if you live with your boyfriend or whatever it is, why take the next leap? If you're wearing crosses for fun and, you know, it
I mean,
seems
if
like
you're actually asking the question, I mean, because then I would just be pledging the fact that I would want to be with them forever.
But you can just be with them forever. So what is it that you crave that when you want to get married? What's that next step for you? What does it mean? What's the difference between dating and marriage?
Because it's a commitment.
Is dating not a commitment?
It's a commitment, but it's saying a next step. It's solidifying it.
Okay, solidifying what? Because if
solidifying a bond between two people that love each other.
Okay, but what is solidified? If you can then jump into that next commitment, which is the exact same as dating, and you can sleep with other people, and you can put topless photos on the internet, what are you getting married for? Pictures on Instagrams to say you did it?
I mean, I'm not sleeping with other people.
What's the difference for you between dating and marriage?
I just told you, it's a bond between two people. You're solidifying that by law. You're literally making it known. I want to be with this person forever. It isn't just a simple breakup, oh, I can go and do whatever the fuck I want and leave. It's a partnership. It's a bond. It's forever.
But there's no difference between dating and marriage.
There is a
other
difference.
than the idea in your head that it's a bond, because you're saying also.
But it's not an idea in my head. It's on paper.
Okay, it's the paper. That was.
But it's not but I'm saying it's not a tax break. It's a legal thing.
And I think
I'm
for people that are
connecting to somebody for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Well, I think for people that think about marriage and don't think about a cross as something funsy to wear, it's not a piece of paper. It is a union between a man and a woman, a sacred union that should be protected from external forces. Definitely not something that you open up. How I would feel disgusting if my husband ever came to me and said, "I want you to sleep with another man or sleep with another woman so that I can fill my sexual fetish." I mean, it's an utter perversion of what it means to be married, and it will lead to divorces. People that have this perspective will, and I'm not saying that if you don't do it, you won't get divorced 100%, but I do want to say that there is probably a reason that a lot of sex workers struggle to find people that want to marry them.
It took a little over an hour for the two hookers to realized that the only reason why they were there at all was so that Brian and Pixie could throw countless alley-oop passes to Candace so she could dunk all over them for choosing to be sex workers. The younger hooker tried to make Candace uncomfortable by talking about specific sex acts, but I could tell that didn't rattle her at all, because Candace spoke the entire time like she was conducting an exorcism for these two prostitutes who she clearly believes are possessed by money, dick, and views on social media.
I can see this has become a struggle between good and evil. Satan has a question.
Well, can I say a lot of the perversion that comes if you are not going to be acceptant with your partner, if he comes to you and is like, "Hey, I really like getting pegged. I want you to peg me." And you're like, "Ew, that's so disgusting. Like, I would never do that. You want me to eat your ass? I would never do that." Well, then, okay, what are you going to do? Divorce him? Or what are you going to do? Realistically, I'm asking you hold on, I want to know, what are you going to do? That's your husband. He's like, "Hey, babe."
I think one of the things about marriage that's really beautiful is I know what my husband, before we got married, I think I know who he is.
But things change, and maybe he wants to start exploring.
He wants to start doing what?
He wants to start exploring, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, maybe I do want you to like eat my ass, and I kind of want you to peg me. Like I kind of want anal penetration from you because you're my wife and you're so beautiful and hot, and we're married and we have kids together, and I'm feeling a little bit kinky, and with you, since we have this special marriage and bond, how would you feel if we could just try this out just this one time, babe, please?"
I think it would probably indicate to me that my husband was involved in some perverse world, whether it was through pornography, that something else was happening on the side, because these aren't normal things that people just think of when they wake up.
So
like,
what's your
hey,
next
I'd
move?
really like a strap-on dildo.
Okay, right. So what's your next move?
What's the ultimatum? He's going to divorce me if I don't peg him?
So what's your next move?
Crazy. I would think that individual would probably need therapy and not the kind that you give.
Brian then went on to ask Granny a couple of questions about who she's been fucking lately, but once again,
I don't care.
about the sexual exploits of a 46-year-old streetwalker. When Brian realized Candace wasn't taking the bait to dunk on Granny again, he allowed Pixie to ask Candace a couple of real questions, such as her thoughts on what the effects of sex education taught in schools have had on modern society. The topic inspired Candace to transition the conversation into sharing her thoughts on hoflation.
I thought it was pretty brilliant. Paul Joseph Watson, I love his YouTube stuff, and he started talking about hoflation, saying that men used to have to do a lot less and get a very high value woman. He's like, so think about your grandparents and your grandmother. She was a high value woman. She raised the kids. She was conservative. She was beautiful. All of these things. And now we live in this moment where everyone's kind of a hoe, and you have to work harder to get a woman that doesn't have any self-respect or any value. Unfortunately, these are the options that men have. No, I'm not saying it's stunning to me that women talk about what men need to be and what men need to be, but I think just kind of the complete disintegration of when I look at what my grandmother looked like in pictures. She passed in 2013, and just how classy and how beautiful and how much I wanted to be like her. And now I look at women today, and I just think, man, I feel bad for guys that the pool's getting smaller. But also, it's really positive for women that are conservative and who it means that you're part of maybe a smaller pool of individuals. I see it a lot more in the South, and that men should aspire to pursue those women, absolutely, to raise their families and to raise their kids.
This hooker refused to continue taking what she interpreted as disrespect lying down, despite the fact that she makes a living taking everything else in her life lying down. So she tried to stand up to Candace on behalf of 304's worldwide.
Go ahead.
And speaking of hoflation, I mean, we're always trending apparently, right? Because hoes. Because without us hoes, you wouldn't have that many views to be watching, right? You have hoes come on the podcast to talk about our.
I'm not knocking hoes.
Well,
I don't want to be a hoe.
I'm saying,
I don't want to be a hoe.
I'm saying, so you sit here and you want to bash sex workers, but you know we come
When
on
did
here.
I
we
bash?
Bash
When did I
anybody.
bash?
Anybody.
I don't think
There was-
anybody
there
has
was
bashed.
very
He's
little
bringing you
bashing.
on here and giving you a platform to speak. So I
Yeah.
think that if he was going to be bashing you, he wouldn't even allow
But
anybody
making
on.
us-
Because it's interesting.
Wait, what?
It's
Yeah.
fascinating. I am
That's what I'm
fascinated
saying.
by hoes. I'll say it. I'm absolutely fascinated by the way the hoe mind works, the way the hoe hive works. I'm fascinated.
Next
I cover it
documentary.
on my show. You
And
are
it is
correct. It is
trending. I'm
trending.
saying, and that's-
It is absolutely fascinating to see how someone's mind can be so warped. You know, in the same way that I think it's fascinating when anybody does anything crazy or says anything crazy, and I cover it on my podcast. You know, I am not knocking it at all. I just tell people what the facts are. You can choose this lifestyle, and here is where you are 99.9% likely to lead in your life. Right? You are probably not destined for marriage. You're probably not destined for a stable relationship. Men are going to not want this long term. You can say it 1,000 times. You can have 1,000 cultural examples, and women's still got to go out there and be hoes, you know, because they're about their money and about a Cardi B song or whatever it is. So yes, I think it is fascinating, and it is why I wanted to, you know, talk. This is why I talk about it on my podcast, and why I'm very interested to talk to you guys. And I hope you guys feel that I've been respectful in listening to, you know, your lifestyles, even though it's so different from mine. And so I appreciate Brian for hosting.
Well, thank you for coming.
I assume being surrounded by 304's for almost 2 hours probably had Candace feeling very dirty and smelling like a strip club. So she probably took a shower as soon as she got home. Like Candace Owens, I'm also very fascinated by hoe culture.
Why? Why? Why?
I never really heard what whores had to say for the first 3/4 of my life, because back in those days there was always a pimp around that would tell them to shut up, bitch! But since we now live in a world without pimps, I feel like single men in this country have no choice but to pay attention to these
Whores running around doing their little behind shake for the menfolk.
because more and more American women are turning into sex workers. With that being said, this is what I learned from Candace Owens' appearance on the Whatever podcast.
What have you learned?
White sex workers are intimidated by black women that are morally superior to them. Now, before you start saying,
That's a racist.
That was racist.
Yeah, that's racist.
Oh, that is racist.
I'd like you to ask yourself this question first. Do you really think the 304's that you would normally see on Fresh and Fit would allow Candace to talk to them like she did to these chicks without a fight breaking out?
I don't think so, Tim.
Candace Owens is a happily married, devout Christian woman with a career that she seems to love almost as much as her growing family. Every single woman sitting at that table wants their respective versions of what Candace already has, and Candace didn't have to turn tricks or take her clothes off on camera to get it, so they had no choice but to just sit there and take her harsh criticism of them. Candace didn't call them names, and she didn't ask them very personal questions, but was still able to clown them very easily based solely on their poor logic and life choices. Unfortunately, none of the sex workers will remember anything Candace told them on the podcast because they
still got to go out there and be hoes, you know, because they're about their money and about a Cardi B song or whatever it is.
If that wasn't true, then this hooker would have never felt the need to say this well after Candace got in her car and pulled out of the parking lot.
And if men hated us so much for what we do because it's easy money, maybe don't watch it. Because if, as a male, if you guys come to a unity and say, hey, boys, let's stop watching so that these dumb, pretty girls can stop getting paid for sitting on their little fucking asses and doing absolutely nothing, and they're doing nothing, and they look so pretty, and yet they're getting paid more than $400,000 a year.
Is that
That's
how much
more
you
than
make?
Whoa, who's making that?
Exactly.
Wait.
And it's not by doing nothing. There's a lot of
Wait, you
work
make-
involved.
Yeah,
A lot of
so
work.
I make more than a doctor, and I capitalize off of men. You guys are my biggest fans, even if you're haters. I made over $400,000 last year, and it is all because of you. So you guys want to keep clowning on sex work? Keep it up, because if you guys just came together as a whole, as men, you guys, we wouldn't be in business. We are profiting off of you. Thank you. Keep subscribing to our OnlyFans. Keep talking shit about sex workers, because we are making so much more money, and I'm about to be at fucking $1 million this year. So keep it up.
I love how during that entire rant, Pixie just looked at this chick like, where was all of this energy when Candace was here? I guess this chick has the same mind control powers over Candace that Smokey had over Debo in the movie Friday.
Got mind control over Debo. He be like, shut the fuck up. I be quiet, but when he leave, I be talking again.
I'm glad she said that because I agree with her and I plan on talking about it in my next video. As it pertains to this video, she said she makes $400,000 a year. And it is, especially to a broke-ass nigga like me. But even as a dusty-ass loser, I know my soul's worth way more money than what Joe Biden made last year.
And that's the truth, with some cheese on it. Yeah. Ain't no meatloaf between these buns.
When Candace was there, this hooker said her plan was to make as much money turning tricks as she possibly can for the next 10 to 15 years, so she could retire in her mid to late 30s and spend the rest of her life looking for love after thousands of other niggas left pieces of themselves inside of her. Yeah, she might still be able to fuck a few more guys at that age, but she'll never fall in love with any of them because it's almost impossible for women to respect simps that pay for pussy, and real niggas are only gonna pump and dump her ass for fun.
The truth hurts.
That means for the rest of her life, every intimate relationship she tries to get into will be doomed from the start because that's the price she has to pay for selling her soul to prostitution for $400,000 a year. Now, she might have a couple of kids out of wedlock to cure her loneliness, but since she's morally bankrupt, they're only gonna have even more
emotional damage
than she did growing up because their mom's a hooker.
That's so very, very sad.
Candace Owens was right when she said that claiming sex workers as wives only brings shame to men because real niggas know that.
They say you can't turn a bad girl good, but once a good girl's gone bad, she's gone forever.
Prostitution's the oldest profession in history, so I completely understand why hookers are needed in this world. But my problem's that there's just way too many of them now, and feminism made it socially acceptable for whores to take pride doing the one thing that's brought shame to women for centuries. I believe Candace Owens' appearance on the Whatever podcast proves that the most effective way to shame 304's is if it's done by other women.
He ain't lying.
So my advice for women who might want to start shaming whores to help slow down sex work in America but don't know what one looks like, it's
the woman that you don't leave your man in the room by themselves. I'll be damned if you have sex with Charles while I'm making beef stew. Come here, Charles. I need some carrots, nigga, yeah. She is a hoe. She is a hoe.
And that's all I have to say about that.
If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, please subscribe, and tell me what you think in the comment section below.
Peace. I'm Audi 5000.
Those who wish to follow me, I welcome with my hand. Thank you for being a friend.
And those are my thoughts for this video. But then again, what do I know? I'm just an old crippled bastard. Ooh, 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 ooh. I ain't too proud to beg for your money, so like, share, and subscribe.